Welcome to the Are Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professors. Joined today with Newt and Owen. Guys, it is great to see you. Newt, you finished off that beer backstage really fast.
Yeah, I just got to talking, and that's kind of what happens. But fear not, there is a second one in my future.
So, Owen, do you have your drink tonight?
Yeah, I ran out of proper ginger beer and I ran out of scotch, so I can't make my Scottish mules anymore. But I have ginger ale and vodka, so it's the most knockoff Moscow mule I'll ever have in my life.
Respect, mad respect.
Well, yeah, I've got my body armor.
There we go. There we go.
So we're here to do some running backs. And Newt, you want to explain to everybody how they're going to hear you and Owen talk about running backs?
Yeah, so this was Owen's child that he birthed last year with wide receivers, but we're going to talk about running backs in 4 different categories: make you miss, power blocking schemes, zone blocking schemes, and third down backs. And with that, the idea is that we're going to rank our running backs in terms of 1, 2, and 3. The only caveats to that, which is going to be a point of contention that is going to come up for one player in particular, is that you cannot use a player in more than one category. So there might be a player who is the best in, I don't know, say all of them, but you can't use that player in all of the categories. You only get to put them in one singular category. So it allows us to talk about more players and a little bit deeper in the player pool, given where they're at. And with that, we're trying to break it up between, obviously, run blocking schemes, as well as like with third down backs. It's going to be both receiving and pass protection. Both of those go into a third down back. So it's going to allow us to kind of have a conversation around those pieces.
Okay. Owen, you want to call your shot and say which running back in this draft class is going to go to Brandon's Texans?
Well, I don't think Jeremiah Love's going to make it to them in the first round, so I think you're going to have to start diving into some of these deeper concepts or deeper players for their concepts. I think, I'll call my shot and say they will get Emmett Johnson from Nebraska.
Okay. You want to call your shot for Brandon's Texans?
We're going to go with Fat Man, Katron Allen.
And so I got to think a bigger back. I'm going to go Roman Hemby.
Okay.
But, okay. So that being said, the 4 categories: third down back, power, zone, make you miss. And I'm assuming we're starting with the third down because that's at the top of the spreadsheet that we all built.
You're the one that built the spreadsheet, Jim. We just filled it in, but we can go with third down.
Okay. So the cool thing about the third down is that 2 of the 3 backs are the same for both of you in the same order. Owen, you want to kick off the third down category and talk about the category a little bit and who you like?
Yeah, so I'll just run down mine from 1 to 3. So my number 1 third down back, and this has kind of been something I've been consistent with. Now, he had a bit of a down season this past year, but he was my RB3 with a second-round grade coming out of the summer. And then he's dropped a bit now, but he's still in that day 2 conversation with me. Is Nicholas Singleton, the running back out of Penn State, kind of the lightning to that Thunder and Lightning duo there at Penn State, where he's still a big body type guy, but more lean, can make guys miss in space, has a ton of speed despite having that bigger frame, and he was used a ton as their move piece, the pass catcher, as well as being a pass protector. So you had Katron Allen being the big power back, who we'll get to later. Newt already kind of shouted him out, but they left all the receiving ability up to Singleton, and he was able to show out. And I do think he has high upside with athleticism, which shows up in the catching. He just wasn't really given a lot of opportunities because they had a bell cow in front of him for the down-to-down running. So I think for me, he's immediately a third down back coming into the league, and then he has some upside past that. So I have him at 1 there. Then we got Emmett Johnson, the guy I previously shouted out from Nebraska. He was someone where I didn't really know a good, clean place to put him. There was a couple different spots. I ended up getting down to make you miss or third down. And what really decides it for me, and something that's really big for me when it comes to deciding how good a receiver these backs are, because most times you're going to be running very limited route trees. in college. So it's hard to find a guy that has the experience of running out wide or from the slot or being like, the Christian McCaffreys at Stanfords of the world. Like that's really difficult to find. So you have to really kind of find different ways to differentiate these guys. And one of the things I love to do the most is their transition from receiver to runner, how smooth it is for the completion of the catch into making your first move and getting upfield. And I felt that that's what pushed Johnson for me into the third down back category, just because I do think he, while is able to make guys miss, show a real smooth transition where some of these other guys not so much. And then my final player in this category, and the one that I'm clearly going to be the highest on of anybody because he's my guy, is LJ Henderson from Buffalo. Had a 1,000-yard season 2 seasons ago now. Last season still had a pretty good year despite the UB offense taking a big step back with a dip in quarterback play, which I didn't think was possible from the year prior, but somehow it was. Probably could have told you that come the transfer portal, but was still kind of employed, so I didn't want to cause too much trouble. But LJ Henderson's a guy that just a hair short of 5'10", 211, got a dense frame, and he's not the most powerful guy, and he's not like the top of an athlete, but he's got a guy that can make you miss in space, is a natural catcher, does really well when it comes to pass blocking concepts, understands his role. Just a do the dirty work type of guy that is going to be athletically limited, never going to be a top back, but I do think he can work his way into rotation if he's going to be a receiving option because he does show that skill set even at a lower level of competition.
That's some mad respect right there. I think that you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about Singleton, you're talking about Johnson. I, for my third player, had Adam Randall, and I think there's a couple things that go into his eval. He's a running back that was converted from a wide receiver at Clemson. He was a 4-star recruit wide receiver, and one of the things that just really hampered him and why I kind of struggle with this is he does have some pretty stony hands. Like he's got a career 10% drop rate, which is one of the reasons he made the conversion. However, he's going to give you some things out of the backfield that most running backs are not, just with the experience with running that route tree and the ability to go from a backfield alignment to a slot alignment. I think that Singleton, of the guys that we talked about, you really got a chance to see him in a ton of situations where he was taking a slot alignment and he was running true route tree concepts. And I think that I didn't see it as much out of Adam Randall, but he is going to give you that ability because he has so much experience with that. I think one of the biggest things about Randall, when you take a look at him in terms of being that running back convert, is going to be his ability to be a pass blocker. And that's something that I don't know if you guys saw with his time at the Senior Bowl, but I was actually really impressed with him in pass protection and some of those one-on-one drills with linebackers that are very clearly set up to be a linebacker-friendly drill. I actually thought he was one of the better ones there. I thought Singleton did a pretty good job, which is the other half of this conversation that we're having in terms of him being obviously a route runner, but also someone that you can stick back there and add some protection for your quarterback. But Randall really did a lot to show me a player that went from, they don't have to block on passing downs because they're the one that is running the route, to a guy that if he is asked to stay and pass protect, he has made enough strides in 1 year as a running back and understanding what that looks like that I feel really confident about him. So I really did like him for a third down back. There are going to be two guys for me that stand out that are not in this list. And obviously we're having this conversation so we can get the LJ Hendersons and the Adam Randalls out there. But Jonah Coleman and Jeremiah Love are going to be guys that I think are just absolutely phenomenal as well. I think Coleman, you're getting a really well-rounded player and one that can kind of play on third downs. And then Jeremiah Love, to the point of hey, a guy that can line up literally anywhere on the field. You're going to see that from him consistently. And you see it kind of with these groups, your Penn State and your Notre Dame, that have that running back duo that allows teams to be a little bit more creative in how they deploy their more of a receiving threat option. So a couple guys not on either of our lists, but I think that would be solid guys. If you are an analytics guy, I think one of the biggest things that you could look for also, yards per route run. It's a really common stat for wide receivers. They use 2 for that mark for wide receivers in terms of hey, that's a good mark that you want to be at for yards per route run at a college level. The guys that we just talked about and that we listed off, Jeremiah Love, Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson, Nick Singleton, all had yards per route run over 1, and like Jeremiah Love was like 1.84. He was almost at a wide receiver level. And then for me, Adam Randall 0.91. So he's kind of close to that. So a little bit of analytics to that, but I strongly agree with everything that Owen said about Singleton and about Johnson in terms of like the athleticism you get from Singleton and the ability to transition into a ball carrier from that catch with Johnson.
I'm curious to go see the Senior Bowl stuff. I know I've been on record saying I didn't really pay attention to much of it this year. Where I in the past have watched all the drills and everything.
Yeah.
For Randall, I thought that a weakness of his game during the film I watched was his pass blocking.
I agree.
He stepped it up in the Senior Bowl is something interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out.
And I totally agree. And that's kind of one of the things that I noted because I didn't watch him until after the Senior Bowl. So I did have a little bit of bias going into it, admittedly. But if you get a chance, watch day one reps, linebackers, running backs for those one-on-ones from the Senior Bowl. I thought Adam Randall really stood out. I'm not saying that he was just like flooring dudes, but he did a really good job of being at least consistent and doing enough to kind of say, okay, that's the foundation that I want to work off of, because I don't expect any guy, unless they are going to like just be built for the position, to be a stellar pass protector coming out of college. I want to see the willingness. I want to see the size and strength, and then at least like some of the fundamentals to understand how you can get in there, upright, be able to get your hands on a guy and work them from there. I'll let an NFL coaching staff take care of the rest. And I thought Randall did enough where I was like, okay, that's something I can work off of.
Okay, so I have a question. If there's a running back that has had 33, 38, and 40 catches, and he didn't make your third down list, why? Do you know who I'm asking about?
No.
Wait, 33,
Now,
38.
this year he only had 17 catches. But in his prior stop, Roman Hemby, 33 catches in 2022, 38 catches in 2023, 40 catches in 2024. And he's in another category for you guys, but what held Roman Hemby off of being a third down, making your top 3 third down running backs home?
I think I liked him a lot better in the other category, and to be honest with you, his time at Indiana really did color what the grade of that, because I did like him a lot coming out of last year out of Maryland as a receiving back, and I do think where he lost a step maybe as a receiver in the Indiana offense, no fault of his own, he made up for by being a better pass blocker this year than he was in years past. He's not the biggest guy, he's not an absolute hammer or anything, but he does square guys up and do a good job with processing. I actually spent a whole half an hour earlier because I was watching film. My wife asked me who I was watching, and I was watching Hemby, and I broke down kind of man versus slide protections and how the running back was to fit it. And he was picture perfect. Every time I had a different rep to show her to kind of like teach it. So it was really good teaching tape to that point. So I do think he's a good third down back. He would have been on this list if I didn't want to put him somewhere else, because I'm very high on him as a different category. It was just more so that the third down backs are a lot more your niche players, like trying to get your LJ Hendersons, trying to get your Adam Reynolds in there, because some of these other players, like the technical part of it is what's going to get them in the other sections where you're going to talk about a lot more as starting running back. You can get placed in the other categories.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I don't want it to sound bad, but like I would say that my better players are going to be in the other categories. I think that this is going to be like Owen said, a little more niche, where you can make your money there. But it's definitely not one, like I'm not all that high on Nick Singleton this year. Just to give a little bit of context, he's my running back 8 in what I consider to be a kind of down running back class. Emmett Johnson, I'm not as high as consensus on. He's still my running back 5, but I'm not like, man, I'd pound the table for that guy. And Adam Randall, I've got like a late, maybe mid to late day 3 grade on. So I think that those guys, like they have an opportunity to be a part of a team because of that trait. Maybe Emmett Johnson a little bit more than that. But it's not like, oh man, they're doing so many other things, but like this is the glowing remark. Once again, my best third down back is Jeremiah Love. Like hands down. That's who it's going to be.
Got it. Well, so we started the podcast off with maybe the weakest group. Newt, do you want to go through your power backs?
Absolutely, because we can talk about Fat Man himself, because both Owen and I have Katron Allen number 1. This is going to be for power blocking schemes. We're looking for guys here that are going to be going north and south. And with that, I think Katron Allen is going to be a guy that when you take a look at him, it's not the first time, but Owen said it perfect. Like, he is the Thunder to Nick Singleton's Lightning at Penn State. He's going to be a guy that he's very no nonsense. He has an understanding for what the blocking scheme looks like, and he is really good about finding that hole. But he's going to hit that hole, and that is going to be how he runs. He's not looking to dance. He's not looking to take his time. He wants to find his hole, and then he wants to be able to go and put his shoulder pad into a linebacker's face mask, because that's just kind of his mentality. And I've loved that about him over the summer. And I think that his ability to take over as the lead back at Penn State and really showcase that mentality has been a phenomenal piece to his game. I think the contact balance is also something that allows him to be a strong one cut back. If you are going to be a guy that is going to running those power blocking schemes, I think you have to have a really good contact balance in order to be successful, because you're going to get knocked around. It's not going to be necessarily as open as it would be in a zone blocking scheme. And you're going to have to be able to, run through that. You also have to be able to get skinny through the hole. And you talk about Fat Man getting skinny through the hole, but man, I think that he actually does a really good job of that. And all of those pieces come together to make a guy that I think that he gives you that consistent, that reliable running style. I think that he has an understanding for, what blocking schemes look like. And I think he's a smooth and an explosive enough athlete that he can really exploit that running style when he's asked to. My next one's Jonah Coleman. I'm assuming that Owen has Jonah Coleman as a highly regarded one cut back. I know he's got him in a different category. But Jonah Coleman, once again, no nonsense. They call him the human bowling ball for a reason. If Katron Allen was a bully in terms of an analogy, Jonah Coleman would be like the living embodiment of the thing, where he is just like, hey, I am going to destroy you as I run in a straight line right through you. I do think that Coleman does have like a nice little bit of wiggle to him for a guy of his size once he gets out in space. But once again, he's not a guy that is going to be winning from, dancing behind the line of scrimmage and trying to find that outside zone. He is going to win from that kind of sudden burst that you don't expect out of a guy his size. But once he finds that hole, he's going to hit it. And then my number 3 is also on Owen's list, Mike Washington Jr. Washington Jr. is a little bit lower for me. He comes in as my running back 11. The thing about Washington Jr. is I don't necessarily love him behind the line. And this is where I think that I kind of struggle with him, because he is very niche. I think that, Coleman or Allen, they're going to be able to be successful in a variety of schemes. They just thrive in a one-cut gap, or I'm sorry, zone, or God bless it all, power blocking scheme. But I think of the Washington Jr., and I have it written down here, he's not super dynamic. He's not very creative with the ball in his hands. He is kind of lacking in contact balance. And I know that's like crazy for me to say, like when I said like, hey, you have to have decent contact balance here. And I think it comes from him being a little bit high-waisted as a runner. Not that he doesn't look for contact. I think his body's just not built for that. And I think he struggles with change of direction. But man, the minute that he is able to become a straight line athlete and just beeline through a hole, watch out. Because Mike Washington Jr. can go from 0 to 60 through a hole just like that if he's able to just go in a straight line. And so when you get a chance for him to have that daylight in those man blocking schemes, it is something to watch, because it's going to be like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And then all of a sudden he's going to get an off tackle run and he's going to be gone for 60, 70 yards because he's got that home run speed. He's got those long legs, and he's able to turn it from 0 to 60 just like that. When he's allowed to be a straight line athlete, if he's moving laterally, I hate it. And it's uncomfortable. It doesn't look right. Nothing about it is natural. But if he's able to kind of be a downhill runner, Mike Washington Jr. can just knock him out of the park left and right.
Yeah, so Owen, your power running list has a player that the channel hasn't covered much. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about your power runners.
Yeah, and he's interesting. Just to cover, because we do have some repeats here between me and you. Yes, Katron Allen is my number one power back. Is there a reason you keep referring to him as Fat Man? Is there like a nickname I'm missing?
That is his published Penn State nickname. He goes by Fat Man. Yes. Look it up in the bio. His nickname is Fat Man. I'm serious.
I think we've been calling him that since the summer. I think, I've heard that before, Newt.
Yeah. At least he owns it. He owns it. But he's my number one. A big thing for me with power running, and the reason why I would say Jeremiah Love would be my number one power running back. And it's not because he's more powerful than Katron Allen or more powerful than Jonah Coleman or any of these other guys. It's because a lot of, when we're talking about power gap schemes, you're relying on a lot of, hitting you're designing it to go to a specific gap as opposed to a zone where you're stretching it out and you're allowing them to pick and choose which gaps they attack and press. I do think that when it comes to running a man blocking or power blocking, you have a specific gap you're looking to hit. And at times, whether it's going to be polars or down blocks and taking over the duo up to the linebackers, you need to have good footwork and patience to allow those blocks to establish themselves, where a zone you can be a lot less patient. So like a player like Jeremiah Love is supernatural when it comes to like his footwork and patience following power blocking schemes. I pulled up that tape to show like my players when I was coaching running backs this past season. Like this is what it's supposed to look at the highest level. Like he is phenomenal.
Be like a top 10 pick in this upcoming draft, and then you'll be good.
Yes, that is what you should strive for. So he would have been a guy that would have been number one for me. But I went with Katron Allen because we'll discuss my placement with Jeremiah Love after this. But Allen was number one just because, yes, he is big, burly, runs over, always falls forward, gets at plus yards every time. Then my number two is Mike Washington Jr., which I watched him and Jonah Coleman on a live stream. And I think you hit the nail on the head with his eval, Newt, where I wrote him down as he's going to be a power blocking scheme guy because his best trait is when he's working north to south.
Yep.
Having him run these lateral, like wide zone plays where you ask him to plant a foot in the ground and then get up field and make guys miss or have like long lateral cuts just isn't his game. But he can hit the hole with high speeds and he is more patient. And while he does have a big frame and some good muscle and speed, so you'd expect him to be like this big power back and be able to shrug off tackles. He is really high hit and has really long legs, opening up that target area for tackles more for defenders. So it's harder for him to be able to like bounce off. He doesn't have that natural leverage of some of these other running backs, which is why I'm a big fan of the short kings at running backs. That's why I was a big fan of
I'm still pissed you weren't at Buffalo when he was there. I was looking to get the inside scoop.
I missed by 1 year, a single year. He transferred out right as I came in.
Absolutely useless.
The big exodus. And then my third player here for the power backs is another player that I think excels when it comes to getting downhill and attacking and being a north to south runner. And Jim mentioned it. It's a player we haven't covered yet. It's Seth McGowan from Kentucky. He looks like I was watching him, and I wanted to put this in a more PG way. So this is the way I figured it out. He looks like he is moving in 2 times speed, but everyone else is in 1 time speed. Where like if you ever watch him, his upper body like rocks around a lot, and he looks like he's like moving like a jittery all over the place. And he's like moving like this, and it looks like he's like one of those kids that thinks he's like Derrick Henry running through like, oh yeah, I'm gonna blow people over, and then he does. He like can hit the hole hard. He's more explosive than he is long fast. So I do think that helps a lot with the power back as well, where you're asking like, hey, this is going to go to the backside A gap, plant and hit that hole as hard as you can. Yes, sir, I got you. He'll go in there and do it, but because he moves like he does when he's running, and it comes down to some of his footwork, and he gets a little sloppy with his technique. I don't think he's going to be a guy that transitions really well when it comes to moving and then cutting and being more in control of his body, being more fluid and smooth. So I think if you're going to have a team that needs a more punch to your backfield and just needs someone to like just absolutely chuck in the middle, get me 2 yards in a cloud of dust, that's your guy, because he moves like he's insane. So I'm assuming he's one of those guys that this Cam Skadoo like ram your head into a concrete wall type guy. But that's my number 3 player for the power blocking in this category.
Okay, and I think McGowan was at the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
If memory serves me correctly.
He had the longest touchdown, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I read the headline. He like a 30-yarder.
Yeah. So it's good. Like this year was definitely a different year for running backs because like a lot of the guys that we did scouting reports on didn't really come back as draftable.
That was the most PC way you could have said this running back class sucks.
Licks rocks, yes. So, but Owen, do you want to cover your best? Well, first of all, Newt, any comments or questions on Owen's list? But considering that 2 of the 3 were the same,
yeah, I'm not going to mention anything. I do have a little bit of teaser Seth McGowan actually in my zone blocking list, but I think for some of the reasons that Owen actually said, but we'll get to that kind of when we get there. I think McGowan is actually a fairly well-rounded running back in terms of like a Mike Washington Jr. I think we both said it, like that man needs to be running north to south. He cannot be running anything east-west. I think that McGowan has the opportunity to do both. I just think that there are some elements to his game that allow him to be, successful in both of those. I'm not disagreeing with anything Owen said, though, when putting him in that man blocking scheme.
Yeah, McGowan was one of the players when I saw your list put together, and I was like, that's going to be one I'm looking forward to disagreeing on. We didn't have a ton of disagreements this year, but I made sure to bake in some today because I truly do believe that. I think McGowan was born to run halfback dive, just run it right in the middle and kick someone in the teeth. So that's totally where my placement was in.
Oh, and you remind me of my older brother. It's always the best content when you disagree with somebody.
It's never good content to agree.
It's not. You're not doing it out of spite. You're just doing it because that's who you are, and like that's what I really appreciate that about your podcast personality.
I was always told I went to the wrong profession. I should have been a lawyer because I love to argue.
Yep. And
dude, my best friend's a lawyer. Holy shit, man! Any argument with that guy drunk at 2 a.m. in college was just always a nightmare.
Well, and there's a saying also about arguing with an engineer. It's like you got to be careful when you're arguing with an engineer. It's like rolling with a pig in the mud. Sooner or later, you realize they both like it.
Jesus.
But Owen, do you want to go through your zone running back?
Yeah, so for zone, kind of I mentioned the skill sets you need to run man blocking or power blocking above, where it's a lot more patience, footwork, but also the ability to accelerate and hit the hole downhill because you have a designed target. With zone, it's kind of the opposite, where you're given a ton of space and you're asked to press the line of scrimmage, keep your feet in a wide base, and then be able to move through your blocking assignments, read through the first line of D-line to the linebackers and see where they're cheating to gap-wise and be able to make cutbacks along the zone. And then if there's nothing open on the inside, back inside, you're hitting to the outside kind of thing. So you have to have enough speed to hit that outside mark. So you have to have a good ability to plant and get upfield once you're moving side to side, as well as having enough speed to threaten the outside. So they have to respect that. And then you can open up some of those inside cutbacks. So for me, somebody who I think has a superpower in this and is one of my favorite players in this class, and I loved him from when he was last year. And I'm so happy. I can say so happily that Wake Forest finally changed their goddamn offense, and he looks so much better in it. Is Demond Claiborne from Wake Forest. They stopped running the stupid delayed walk-up RPO stuff that's been there since Sam Hartman was quarterback. He's now in a traditional like under center with a full back, drop backs or out of the pistol in the shotgun, like giving him some actual genuine running back reps, NFL level reps. And he's a guy that has a ton of speed, has a play finishing level speed, to be able to get upfield and outrun some of these DBs that are on a lighter basis than him. He also runs pissed off. Guys can't bring him down in the open field once he breaks that first level and he can get to the second level and into those DBs. He can make guys miss. They fall off his pads. He's a guy that really wrecks stuff when he gets into space there. But what I think really sets him apart is his ability to have that kind of one-cut, jump cut type ability where he can step, plant, and shoot upfield when he's reading the the line. I do think there's some plays where his vision can definitely improve more, where I do think that like that's still going to be room to grow, but I do think chucking in an entire scheme change is going to do that to some guys, because I did think vision in that previous scheme was a bonus for him. And that was mostly because a lot of his vision with how that was structured previously was in the open field, whereas now he was asked to press and read line of scrimmage and read the linebackers. And he looked like he was getting it more and more as the season went on, but I do think it's still a work in progress there. But when he was hitting it well, he was one of the best in the game at it. Combination of the speed we talked about, the explosiveness of upfield, and then being able to make something of his own after that. So he's my favorite for if you're running like a Shanahan wide zone system. I could definitely see Claiborne eating up one of those like the Rams or the 49ers type running games. So really excited to see that. Number 2 is Jim's guy. We were just talking about is Roman Hemby. Another guy, he's like 6 foot, just a hair over 200. I actually think he's probably a little bit smaller than that. He looks a little leaner. And he runs angry, but he like there was a play against I'm trying to remember which game it was. Maybe it was Michigan, where he was able to do the classic zone run, press to the outside, nothing's open on the inside, nothing's open on the inside, but you have enough gas to hit the outside corner and turn it up and get up the sideline. And he's one-on-one with I think it was TJ Metcalf, and tries to drop the shoulder and just gets leveled on the sideline. So it's like he gets up, he's fine, and he gets back, and he's immediately back in it. I think he caught like a slip screen the next play, so he was back into it. But he's a guy that his skill set, being as smooth as he is with his cuts and as being able to accelerate as he can, going into that wide zone system where he can press, and then cut up field, and then when he has the opportunity to get in open space, he can get upfield and use some of that speed, turn on the burners. That's really where I like him as a runner, which is why he ended up in my zone, my number 2 in my zone. And then number 3 for me is Adam Randall. I know that was Newt's guy in the receiving category. I felt like he's a bit stiff for me, and that's probably why he also transitioned from being a receiver, where I saw some of it when he was coming out of the backfield, and he was definitely in contention for me there. I just felt like I wanted to fit in LJ Henderson somewhere, and that was the better spot for him. Whereas for me with Randall, he's a guy that I think what he can do is get upfield really well. Not so much with patience, and that part of transitioning to running back is kind of escaping him at the moment because he is so new to the position. But when he's asked to run laterally, plant, and then get upfield for 3, 4, 5 yards if he has a gap in front of him, I do think he can do that. Now, he's not as proficient when it comes to reading past the line of scrimmage level, and reading the linebackers, making guys miss after that first cut. But asking him to plant, get upfield, and use that body to get a couple extra yards in that way without having him to be overly proficient at being patient or having good footwork or good vision inside the cluster of the box, I think is where you're going to see him have his best work. So that's why he's my number 3 in zone blocking or zone running there.
Okay, so Newt, you've got 2 of your 3 are different than Owens.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your zone runners?
I'm going to talk about Owens first, because Adam Randall, had I not had him in my third down back, I would have had him straight up in power blocking schemes, because I don't see him as an outside zone runner or a zone runner at all. And like when I saw that, I was like, what are we doing here? To me. So when I look at him, I think his best work is when he's able to be north and south. I think that because he's newer to the position, I think he is going to be able to excel when he has a direct hole to run through. And I pulled this up the minute I saw the ludicrous mark of him as number 3 on your zone blocking. Can you guess what gap is going to be his highest in terms of yards per attempt for last season at Clemson?
I'm going to assume, because you're going after this, is the A gap.
It is the A gap. Congratulations. Can you guess what so I will put a caveat in there. He did have one jet sweep that went for it only went for 5. Never mind. I'm still correct. Can you guess what the second highest gap was? Oh, you got that right. The B gap. I don't see him in the same way that you do. I understand kind of like the points that you're making with the stiffness to him, but I think he's so north and south, man. That's just me though. I see him as a north-south athlete. I see him as a guy that when you ask him to get out in space, he's not as comfortable. He's not able to really see where he needs to go and how to kind of put his foot in the ground and explode. That's just me, though. What games did you say you watched from him? Because I'm kind of curious I almost want to go back and check him out a little bit more now.
I watched the Syracuse game. I watched the. Let's double check. But I definitely the Syracuse game because he had like 7 catches in that game. It was something ridiculous. And because I saw him in your third down receiving one, I was like, okay, so I need to prioritize a game that maybe he was a bit more utilized in the past game. Oh, and I watched the Louisville game.
Okay, I saw the Louisville game. I thought that's the one that to me I was like, oh shit, this guy can get up and down because I watched him against SMU at first, and I was like, damn. Little bit rough. I think if you looked at the stats for his game, I think he had like 1.9 yards per attempt. It was like Clemson got destroyed by SMU's defense that game. But I thought Louisville, he was able to kind of exploit that openness to it. But that's just me. That was the point I wanted to make there. Before I talk about my two guys, do you want to say anything else to that, or?
I do have to say that when you pull up your stats, they count running through the A and B gap is if you're running outside zone and you make a cutback and you just run next to your center, and it's still the A gap.
Yeah,
but
he ain't making no cutbacks. Have you ever seen that man run? He doesn't know what a cutback is.
You're right, and I think I was going back and forth because I did think I was either going to put him in power running or in zone running, and I just the fact that he doesn't drive the when he runs well north to south when he has creases and he can attack a crease. But like when he's met with any kind of contact, needs to make a move in the hole. Like I trust McGowan way more than I trust him to make a move or make a cutback within that kind of finite space than him. Whereas you get him in zone, he kind of reminds me of like a less athletic Isaac Grendo when he was coming out of Louisville, another converted receiver, kind of taller, longer, and they both struggle with the more nuances of the position. But if you get them going in a straight line, whether it's going to be hitting to the outside or on a track where they're able to just get up the field, whether it's going to be initially starting with an open bucket step going out or going straight downhill at a gap, that's where they're going to excel the best. Okay. But I did think that I wanted to fit him somewhere, and I liked McGowan as power, and I liked LJ Henderson as receiving more. So I felt like, okay, if I'm going to make the argument for Randall somewhere, it would be in the last spot of my zone because he damn sure wasn't going to make you in the make you miss category.
No, there's nothing about his game that's going to make you miss. All right, so my guys, and I'll kind of this is actually a nice transition. So my guys, just to read them off in order for zone are Jadarian Price, Roman Hemby as well. I thought Owen nailed it. Roman Hemby might be one of my favorite backs in this year's draft class. He is so much fun to watch. He runs so damn pissed off. He hits way above his weight class. Like he's 204 for his Senior Bowl weigh-in, and he is just annihilating dudes. Like comes in careless to how big he is versus a linebacker or a safety. There's one play that I clipped and tweeted out of him where it's like he gets knocked around 3 times and he doesn't give a shit about that. He still ends up turning into like a 10-yard run. So Hemby for me, I loved. I thought you nailed it. And then my number 3 for this is Seth McGowan, who is your number 3 for power blocking schemes. And I think that this is kind of where that conversation that I just had with Randall comes full circle. With McGowan, and I kind of said this, like, I think he's a little bit more versatile. I don't disagree with the things that you're saying with McGowan because I think he runs super pissed off, and I really do like the elements of that in terms of his game. But with him and with where I see McGowan, I think he's got the ability to be a little bit more sudden. And I don't mind him when he gets out in space and then to kind of, as he's going through and kind of identifying what a run looks like, then take advantage and be very sudden about the way that he then hits a gap that develops. So with him, I definitely see a guy that, you can take advantage of that burst and that patience to wait for a opening to develop and then hit it. But I think he does a really good job out in space of taking advantage of that well. I think you did say it really well too, though, about like kind of his body movement. I think that he makes these massive jump cuts behind the line, which is why I don't mind him in a zone blocking scheme, because I think the biggest thing for me is if you're going to be in a zone blocking scheme, you have to be able to survive behind the line of scrimmage. And I think with McGowan, he has that ability. He's got the ability to kind of sit back there for a while, to kind of go through it and pick the opportunity is going to move forward and not be deterred by, players that are moving in and out of that space. So I did like him a little bit more there. But then for me, Jadarian Price, he's once again a guy that, and I know we'll talk about him for you in just a little bit, but he's a really complete running back. I think you can put him in man blocking schemes and he'll be fine. I really like him still in zone blocking schemes because I think that he is going to show a really good burst when he needs to. I think that he's got phenomenal vision and he can identify a hole before it develops, which is one of the things that allows him to be a strong player when he's running in those schemes. But I still think that he's got good burst between the tackles and he's able to do that. I just think overall you're looking at a guy that, you can find success in either scheme because he does have that phenomenal vision. He's able to cut it back when he needs to in those zone blocking schemes and go through and find success in either one of those. So that's my three guys. Like I said, Jadarian Price, Roman Hemby, and Seth McGowan.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about McGowan with behind the line scrimmage being able to survive there and his jump cuts. For me, a lot of when it comes down to power versus zone is when you make those cuts, you have to be in zone. You're flowing from one side of the field to the next. You're going east to west, and you have to make that plant and cut while still in that full kind of motion, have more body control. Whereas with power, when you're making those jump cuts, you can do the kind of like stereotypical footwork drills where you work through the ladder, where you're shuffling side to side. Yeah. And you can kind of stop and start. And as long as you have some good burst out of that stance and keeping a wide base, you can do that. It's kind of a different style of cutting. I think McGowan can do both. I just liked him a lot more when he was doing the more stop and start, get up the field, and then as well as when he just got a full head of steam and wanted to punch dudes in the mouth.
No, that's fair. And like I said, I think that there are some guys that I think are definitely a little bit more for one versus the other. Like once again, Mike Washington, I swear to God, if he gets in a zone running scheme, that man will not survive. But like a lot of these guys on the list, and we're talking about one versus the other. I think even if Katron Allen were in a zone blocking team, I think he'd be fine. I just like him better as a north to south guy. I like his ability to, like I said, get skinny through the determined gap and kind of go forward from there.
Yeah.
Well, Newt, you bring up a good point about some of these guys, if they can do more than one of these things, there's probably a reason that they're high on the board, right? Like if Jeremiah Love is zone and power, there's a reason he's going to be at the top of the board. He'll apply to every team's scheme. Whereas the Katron Allen, if the team runs zone, do you think he's on their board?
I think he's on their board. I think he's not going to necessarily be as high on their board. Like if you were to tell me that a team ran like majority zone, I want to see the difference in my grades right now. I'm not going to say this for sure. No, I wouldn't. I'd probably still take Katron Allen just because I think he's that much better of a runner. But like that's where for me, like I could see, depending on what you're going through, like then a Roman Hemby starts coming into the conversation a little bit more. So I think that, and it's true, and this is my lens writing for like the Cheesehead TV draft guide. Like when I'm doing that, I'm doing that through the Packers lens. So it's not necessarily how I see the guy, it's how they're going to fit that. So the same thing's true for running backs. Like when you are a team and you have a running style, you're probably going to prioritize one guy over another to a certain degree. You're not going to drop a round grade in order to get a guy that maybe fits your style a little bit more. If it's a conversation between two guys that are like right neck and neck, then you'll prioritize the guy that fits your scheme. But you're not going to take a massive step backwards in terms of talent just so you get a guy that fits your system a little bit more. You're either going to pass on that position or you're going to go with the better player. That's just my opinion and like how I write through the lens of like looking at a specific team style. But I'm not going to take a guy just because they're better at zone blocking schemes when I think there's a guy that's just a better overall back.
Yeah, all teams run a mix of zone and power. Like if you're choosing one or the other, it's usually like a 60-40 split.
Correct.
Like it's similar to like how all NFL defenses are really zone heavy defenses. Just like if you're man heavy, you're running like 30% man instead of like 10. So you have to be balanced, especially with your players in the backfield. Like there's a reason why their running back by committee is such an important thing now, because teams want to be multiple with that. And so you're going to draft a guy even if he doesn't fit like your main scheme, because you're going to find a way to get him on the field and run those other things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've finished the zone. We're on to the make you miss, right?
Correct.
Okay, and I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Sparks in the chat, because Ryan has filled in his. And what I find interesting is that there's at least one player that Ryan has that overlaps each category. Like people are seeing the running backs pretty much the same way. So I'm finding this exercise to be quite helpful. But Newt, take it away.
Yeah. So for the make you miss, the elephant in the room is Jeremiah Love. We've talked about him a little bit, but he hasn't been on a top 3 list for me, at least until now. I can't say the same for my co-host, but Jeremiah Love for me is going to be the number 1 make you miss back in this year's draft class. I do think it's a product of the class and how not elusive and creative this class is, that I thought it was a little bit thinner. But after that, I have Damon Claiborne, who Owen talked about. And I think he talked about him in terms of a zone running back and the same reasons that I would take him as a make you miss type back. And then Jamari Taylor, who I know Owen's got as well on his list. So Jeremiah Love, I don't know why he was stuck in my head. Jeremiah Love.
Very similar players. I can see why you got them mixed up.
Yeah, right. Jeremiah Love, if you get a chance to see, like, it's pretty. It's so much fun because he does all of the things correct behind the line of scrimmage. But when he gets past the line of scrimmage, it's, like grab the popcorn, grab the large movie theater size soda, and then just sit back and watch, because that's where it goes from, the technical piece side of the game and the refinement in terms of skill into like, boom, this guy is a natural athlete. He's able to do things that others wish that they could do, whether it's, hurdling players, throwing on a juke, being able to put his body in head fake in a way that is going to freeze the defender. Like everything that he does, he's going to be able to combine his athleticism with his understanding for what a defender is trying to do when they break down a tackle. And he is so much fun to watch when he's out in space. I think Damon Claiborne, for the same reasons that Owen was saying, I think he's very abrupt. I think he has the ability to show good contact balance, but then pair that with some nice agility and burst that allow him to be disruptive when he's out in space, but not lose his momentum that he has going forward. Man, anyone can compliment Kyle Monungai that's got a little bit of like lateral shiftiness. But to Damon Claiborne, he's going to be a guy that he's very, very elusive and abrupt. And that's kind of like one of the words I always go back to is if you're going to make someone miss, it's not about being, quicker or having, this like elite athleticism. It's about misdirection. It's about deception. It's about, how quick can you change your direction? And I think Damon Claiborne is going to be a guy that really, shows that. And then for me, it's also Jamari Taylor. And once again, I know he's a guy that is on Owen's list. Jamari Taylor, I think he's going to get a little bit more hate this draft cycle because he is an older prospect as a 6-year senior. But he did so many fun things with his time at North Carolina Central before going to Virginia, and then he continued to do that. I think he's very shifty, whether it's behind the line of scrimmage, being patient as a runner, or it's his ability to excel out in space. One of the things that's going to allow him to be successful is his ability to stay clean and then continue on to get those yards after contact and the elements to his game. Like all of these guys that I'm talking about, when you take a look at one of the stats that's going to tie over to them, it's going to be missed tackles forced. And missed tackles forced comes in a couple different ways. I know Owen's going to talk about that for a guy that's going to force missed tackles in a very different way than some of these guys are. But like force missed tackles for Jeremiah Love, 0.28, meaning he's going to force a missed tackle every like fourth attempt, a little bit more than that. When you take a look at Jamari Taylor, 0.25, so dead on for a quarter. And then finally, my last guy, Devon Claiborne, 0.2. So all those guys are good. You know, when you talk about like your Bijan Robinsons of the world and your I'm not sure where Genty was last year, but I'm pretty sure he was high, like 0.3. That's like when you start getting into some superstar power. So, you know, I think it does a really good job of kind of painting that picture. But missed tackles force comes in many different ways. And I'll leave that to my segue into Owen talking about his three guys.
Yeah, so real quick, just to answer the question we had in the chat about a guy that can complement Kyle guy. I feel like if you went to our first section of this podcast, we were first talking about it, like the more receiving third down back types, like Nicholas Singleton in early day 3. I think that'd be a great compliment. You're putting him back together with another player that's kind of that thunder and lightning duo, with Munungai being that one cut, you know, power type runner behind the line of scrimmage. And then
that's not thunder and lightning. That's lightning and an earthquake, though. I mean, it's a whole nother level with Munungai.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely. I think that's why it's a great fit, because I think it is to identify where Mungai struggles a bit, which is going to be in the receiving game, a bit more of that speed outside zone stuff, and that's where Singleton really excels. So I do think that would be a good name to throw out there, especially for a team that's going to move on from DeAndre Swift. That's a good. You can do much worse at replacing him with that.
When in doubt, Jadarian Price.
When in doubt, you're great, but I don't know if he's going to be there in day 3.
Yeah, okay, you're right. It was a late round. You're right. I missed the late round, but when in doubt, Jadarian Price.
You're right. But so for me, I'm going to open up with the elephant in the room that I don't have Jeremiah Love in any of my top 3s of any of these positions. And it's not because he's not worthy of it. It's
he
just
thinks he's undraftable. He thinks he's undraftable, just like a Emeka Egbuka.
He would be number 1 in every single category. And I felt it was dishonest to put him and peg him in one individual category, because like he's the best receiving back. He has the athleticism and the hands and the pass blocking to be a guy who's an every down back. He has, like I said, the footwork, the patience, and like he has oomph behind his pads. Like he's 6 foot 211. My favorite play was in the year when they made the run to the national championship game. They had Riley Leonard, and he was like a lead blocker. And I can't remember what, I think it might have been Louisville or somebody. And they had 2 rushing touchdowns for Riley Leonard, and he was the lead blocker for it out of like a quarterback power. And he put some dudes on their ass.
It was like some of the best clips that exist out there. I put that up on Twitter. It was like 15 yards downfield. Jeremiah Love just like annihilates the safety.
Yeah, so he will talk with his pads, but then also he's explosive and can hit outside zones and plant and go. Like there was a 5-game stretch this past season from the USC game down to the second last game of the season, the Syracuse game, where he had his longest run was 63 yards, 94 yards, 48 yards, 56 yards, and 68 yards. And that's not counting 2 more 40-plus yarders or 36-plus yarders he had earlier in the season. So, like, he's explosive. He can make you miss. The run against Pitt is one I will point to. Like, the BC one, he makes outside zone. He makes 1 cut, gets upfield, and he's untouched for 94 yards. But the one against Pitt, it's a power blocking scheme where he has to allow his pulling player to come kick a guy out. He had picture-perfect shuffle foot technique and then gets upfield, does a spin move to make a linebacker miss, and it splits the 2 deep safeties, and it's like he's gone for a touchdown of 60 yards. Like, it's beautiful. So he'd be number 1 in all of these spots. He's tied with Arvell Reese without positional value. He is tied for film grade with Arvell Reese, my number 1 player on the board, on my big board. So I am that high on Jeremiah Love. I think he's up there with some of the best backs we've watched in previous years. Which is why I didn't want to put him in any of these categories to kind of highlight some other guys. But to get to the list proper, Jadarian Price, I think I'm a bit lower on him than most people are, because I do think he's not due to any fault of his own, but because he got such limited action in that Notre Dame backfield, he's a bit more raw when it comes to like reading past the line of scrimmage to the linebacker level, or allowing his blocks to start.
Raw or fresh?
You know what? You're right. Fresh or raw. You know what? Some of these guys are going on these raw carnivore diets. Maybe that's the Jadarian Price comp is I forget what that crazy dude's name was that's on YouTube that eats all the raw meat.
Oh yeah, right.
But
what running back is he for you?
I don't know what you guys are watching on YouTube.
Jim, you gotta get on the wild stuff, man.
Apparently I'm
Primal
watching
diet.
too much stuff on the John Wilkes Booth Escape Tour to be like watching people like I don't know.
What running back number is he?
For me, he is currently running back number. I say I'm a little around him. He's RB3, but it's just
okay.
grade wise. I do think I have a 3rd round grade on him.
I have a 3rd round grade as well.
I think that's normal. I don't think that's low. I think that's normal.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people having his like RB2 comfortably in like in the 2nd round or late 1st round conversations. It's like,
he's RB4 for me with a 3rd round grade.
Fair. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'm more aligned with other people than I thought I was. I just feel like he's a great athlete, can make dudes miss. But when it's like comes to his vision, decision making, he loves to hit the outside like all the time. Like if he has the option to disregard what his blocks are telling him and like, oh, I have a lane to the outside, I'm gonna hit it because I'm fast and make guys miss in open space. I'm gonna take it. I just think that stuff needs to be kind of cleaned up and needs to get coached up a bit. But he's a great prospect when it comes to the raw natural running and making big plays out of nothing kind of thing. So that's why he's number 1 for me for making miss. And you mentioned it, Newt. So Jonah Coleman's my number 2, and the reason for that is forced missed tackles also includes having guys fall off your pads.
Guys.
Yeah, you don't have to be the cleanest. You don't have to be Jeremiah Love pirouetting between linebackers to cause missed tackles. You can just run through arm tackles, and that's a missed tackle force.
Well, in that case, Kyle Monunga is going to be my first for making miss last year.
But unlike Kyle Monunga, Coleman also has a little bit of wiggle to him, where he's able to do some cuts in open space and make guys miss and grasping at air after some of these moves. And he has some hurdles on his tape. Like he's a beauty when it comes to some of the athleticism he has in such a big frame. I originally had him in my power running, but I wanted to highlight a McGowan in power running a bit more. And I was like, I could put Coleman and make him miss because I can definitely argue that for the exact reasons I just did. And then number 3 for me, it's one of the guys that you already talked about with Jamari Taylor. I also wanted to shout out Le'Veon Moss from Texas A&M because I think they're both in the same mold of they have some Moss is a bit more like the Kyle Monunga guys where all his forced tackles are going to be power kind of falling off of dudes winning leverage battles. But Taylor is a lot more. He has that jitterbug to him where he's able to make guys miss, but still have the leverage battle and be able to run through tackles and break arm tackles. I do think that he's exciting because he had 1 year at higher level of competition and really exploded and he had like 4 touchdowns in his first 2 weeks there. So I do think he has a lot of untapped potential. So I do think that he's a guy that when you talk about shorter backs, having leverage winning, having power, but also ability to miss, he's a guy that really excites you when it comes to what he can do, especially when he's given more opportunity. So he's my number 3 in that category as well. And like I said, Jeremiah Love, not in the top 3s, but because he's just like God tier running back prospect in this class.
As a 6-year senior, I hope Jamari Taylor figures out that untapped potential very quickly.
Well, okay, so running back summary. Newt, if you had to call your shot at how many running backs are going to be drafted before the end of round 4?
Oh, 4. I think a lot of them go in round 4. I think that's the problem.
Well, and this is going to take I'm going to go with the end of round 4 for a reason, and then I'm about to squeeze it higher.
Oh, man. I was hoping you said 3, but we'll go with 7.
So, Owen, how about you? How many running backs do you have graded high enough to go by the end of round 4?
End of round 4?
Correct.
8.
Okay. So then, Newt, how many of those guys do you think go before the end of round 3?
Okay, now we can answer this because I think the answer is probably like 2. I think 3. Like 2, maybe 3.
So you want to call your shot at which 3 those are, Newt?
Love. I think it'll be Jadarian Price and Jonah Coleman. I think Fat Man is RB2 for me. Like for a little bit of perspective, But if I had to call out the 3 running backs, I'd say Love, Coleman, and Price would be the 3 that I would say are going to go top 100.
I think so. I think Love, Coleman, Price are easy. I think those are going to be easy, the 3. Now it comes the question of like, what's the need? How about the scarcity of the class? Is it going to cause them to go up, or is it going to cause them to go down? I think a team's going to fall in love with Emmett Johnson. I think he's going to run really well, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be 3-year junior, left Nebraska, has some crazy tape. Again, another guy that I think is a little bit more raw when it comes to the technique of the position, but like makes magic happen in the open field and has some good receiving acumen, as we talked about earlier. So he'll be someone I think could go maybe at the back end of the top 100. I mean, I have Claiborne and Hemby with 3rd-round grades, but I do think they would probably fall into day 3 just from the position.
You got Hemby with a 3rd-round grade?
I do.
Damn it.
Okay. So, next question. So now I'm going to take the question and turn it inside out. Newt, who do you think are the first 5 teams to draft a running back?
Man.
Which team is the need the highest?
Are the Packers drafting another running back?
And Owen, if you want to help Newt out, like I'm thinking one of them is Minnesota.
Yes.
Gotta be. Let me pull up.
So I have Tankathon up right now.
I got to pull up an MDS real quick. Pull up the draft professor MDS. Okay, so let me just think of this really quick. I think Dallas.
Yeah,
Houston,
Texans.
Dallas, Minnesota.
Yeah, Dallas. So Dallas, Texans, Minnesota.
Titans?
And I was thinking, is it the Titans?
I was thinking Titans too. And then Kansas City?
Oh yeah, no, Kansas definitely will. Because they get mocked love all the time in the middle of first because
So we're saying Tennessee, Kansas City, the Vikings, the Texans, and
the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other ones that really jump out to me.
I did one mock for Cheesehead TV where I took Katron Allen in the 4th round for the Packers, and I was absolutely torched online.
There's actually quietly a lot of teams that need backs. Like New Orleans needs a back because Kamara might be done. The Jets are going to be losing Breece Hall to free agency,
but they have the tank Braylon Allen.
Listen, I was out on Braylon Allen his draft year, and I think he's
the man's still only like 16 years old. Come on.
I'm aware. And I mean, okay, I was out on him as like RB1. I had him like with a 4th-round grade, and I have so far been proven correct on that one.
He had a phenomenal rookie year. He was injured his sophomore year. Let's get the guy a little slack.
You're right. I do.
They have Isaiah Davis right behind him.
Yeah, it's true.
Is that stopping me from drafting Damon Claiborne?
Maybe. I don't know. Do you want the guy that holds the ball to fumble the ball 8 times?
That's fair.
So one team we haven't mentioned, but Pittsburgh.
They just drafted Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, but apparently from doing some Pittsburgh podcasts, they don't like Caleb Johnson.
I think
Shocker.
I don't believe that at all. I think that it's going to be like, hey, you get your year learning pass protection, and then you get him out there. You're not taking Caleb Johnson with a 3rd-round pick to just like flush it away. Like, I will tell you right now, every Packer fan out there hates Marshawn Lloyd right now because he hasn't gotten on the field. That's injury related. I think with Caleb Johnson, like, he's gone through a year now. He has an understanding for what he has to do as a pass blocker. I think that Caleb Johnson is going to be a guy that's out there. Plus, you still have Jaylen Warren. I'm not saying that, like, that's the end-all, be-all, but I wouldn't say that they are going to take a running back in the top 4 rounds after already drafting a running back 3rd round last year.
I do want to bring up mine and Newt's Battle of the Big Boards we did on the Weekly Huddle YouTube channel last year, where Caleb Johnson was the 34th overall player for Newt, and he was outside of my top 75. I think he was like at the same level of Donovan Edwards for me, like in the 150s. God. And then when he fumbled that kickoff, I was like,
he never took a kickoff in all of college, and Mike Tomlin's like, yeah, let's have him take kickoffs. That sounds like a good idea.
I don't know, but I actually think that's actually a really good point because we talked about this and Owen, I don't remember which podcast, but I believe you were on it. But I said, which position on the roster is taking the kickoffs? And running backs are better with the new kickoff rule than wide receivers are. You want your running backs being the ones that take kickoffs. Were you on? It was not that your podcast, Owen. I just remembered it was we did a kickoff returner podcast on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't you. I just got you confused with Taylor.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes, take that as a compliment, please. But meaning that as we were going around and like there was a Broncos podcast or Jets and the Bills, we were basically saying that it was the running backs were the ones that were returning the kicks. It's not the wide receivers anymore. So
let me just like give a one small data point to that. Josh Jacobs returned 2 kicks all year for the Packers. They happened to come in that Bears game. Do you know what happened with his first kickoff return? He fumbled the ball. It's not like, oh man, this is obviously the godsend. Now I do understand with the new rules, it does make a little bit more sense because it's not like that screaming downhill like it was before. But I still think like there are guys that are built for that have it's not the same as running the ball, with the line. There are guys that are going to be just more built for that. And I wouldn't want to take a rookie that's never done it before, that's not built that way, and have him say, oh, yeah, you're going to be our kick return guy. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, so Ray Davis was the AP first team kick returner this year, and he had a couple big returns. And the way that the Bills ran their kick returns, they basically ran it like there was a fullback in the backfield with them. Instead of having 2 returners, it was exclusively Ray Davis, and they had Reggie Gilliam back there as a legitimate fullback leading the way, and they would pull dudes on the line and have them do kick-up blocks with their direction. Like, they were very creative in instilling more run play concepts, but like a lot of teams just kind of did the line it up and see how it goes method. And when that's the case, you can do either player. And I mean, I said it earlier while Jim was talking, but Rashid Shaheed has been like electric as a kick returner, as a receiver. It's more so. I thought I was gone. It's more so how you can read blocks and react and have change of direction. So I do think there's a lot of that skills that comes with running backs. Like a lot of these guys in the film I was watching, they had returns and kick returns. I think Adam Randall had a couple kick returns.
Yeah.
I think
there's one guy that I'm forgetting. Even though I think it was Randall. I think you called that out right. It was Randall that had a ton of experience with that.
Yeah, so like you have guys that like they're trusting, and that the college kickoff rule is still similar to the old NFL rules, so it's even different than that jump. So I do think that the use of running backs is going to continue to grow, especially as special teams coordinators start to implement more creative designs that kind of level that playing field out. But you're always going to, if you have a guy who's explosive and can hit seams with good ball carrier vision, it doesn't matter what position they play, as long as they can do that, they're going to return kicks.
Okay, well, why don't we pause for podcaster identification? So, Newt, you want to let everybody know about Cheesehead TV and the other things that you do?
Yeah, Newt Weston, you can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at NFL_Draft_Weston. Try to put almost everything that I do out there, whether it's writing and posting for the website I run, zerotechdraft.com, retweeting a lot of the stuff that we do here at Draft Professor, or retweeting and sharing the work that I do over on Cheesehead TV, including their podcast related to the draft and upcoming their draft guide. So, app formerly known as Twitter, best place to find me. It's kind of got all of that stuff linked out to it. Once again, at NFL_Draft_Weston.
Oh,
yep. So you can find me on Twitter at Weekly Huddle, where you can see my campaign for the Bills to draft Jay Sean Barham, continuing into day 6 of tweets. I took a weekend off, but we're going to continue tweeting at Brandon Bean without pleases anymore, Jim. You got the one on me. I'm not asking nicely anymore. But also over on YouTube, where I referenced earlier, me and Newt did our Battle of the Big Boards. I've had Newt on in the past to do summer scouting and a bunch of other videos as it pertains to scouting concepts, as well as going live to do live watch-alongs. Like I said earlier in this podcast, I watched live my updated grading of Jonah Coleman, and then got fresh eyes on Mike Washington Jr. So I do those lives and then post them up on my Patreon once I'm done with those. So that's where you can find a lot of my content. I'm also writing for She Said TV's draft guide for their interior offensive line section. The combine list just dropped, so I got a bunch of new names I'm going to have to add to at least make a mention of if there's. I'm hoping they're all going to be significantly later, so I just have to write their names and stuff out. But maybe I'll find a guy I'm in love with.
Oh, well, first I want to thank Newt and Owen for helping put this podcast together. I like this format of covering players. So I think it was Owen's idea or however Owen and Newt put it together. Like this, I really like the way that you guys were able to break apart the running backs and such. And then Randy, yeah, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. And then Ryan, thanks for being here as well. I want to remind everybody that we do 32-person mock drafts every Friday, and we want you, the people watching the podcast, to draft for your team. That way, if you're going to complain about Owen drafting Elijah Surratt to Buffalo, so if you're going to drop that into the YouTube feed, just come on the podcast, draft for Buffalo, tell us who you draft. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to complain. Like, it's a constructive complaint. Owen and I talked about it, and right now I'm taking Owen's side until I hear a better opinion.
I cried only a little bit. I got put on blast pretty hard for most of my picks in that mock draft.
I was actually at my girlfriend's daughter's wedding when I was sending you those photos. So I was killing time between the wedding and the food when I was sending you that. But anyway, we want you to draft for your team. So we'll have 32 people picking for 32 different teams. The draft is 3 rounds. It's going to take us 2.5 hours. In 150 minutes, we will discuss 100 players. And actually, Randy will be one of the people on the podcast, and you'll get to hear Randy's grades on all of the players that you pick. So stop by Friday. It is usually our best podcast of the week. So we want you to join us, please, and thank you. And we have Epic Mock coming up April 9th, 10th, and 11th. That will be a 7-round mock draft with trades. We will have 33 podcasts going. There will be 1 podcast for every team. You will see Owen on the Bills feed with Jerry Ostrowski. You will see me on the Draft Professor feed here. You'll hear me complaining about the players Owen picked. You'll hear Owen complaining about me. It'll be a lot of fun.
I still have the video saved on my laptop from when Jim lost his mind when we drafted Kyle Williams and traded up for him last Epic Mock. It's
yes,
cool.
And technically that was Ty Felton, but yes.
Or yes, Ty Felton, you're right.
Yes. And like Ty Felton was one of my
forgets.
guys. I just don't think that we should have done that in that specific mock. But, you know.
I got outvoted. That's all I got to say.
Yep.
I just recorded it.
But, yeah. So we're here. We're Draft Professors. We're here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. We are starting a second show on Saturday mornings. I think you will see Randy on that show on Saturday mornings as well. We are starting a 3rd show on Sunday nights. So we will have, 2 shows Sunday morning. We're going to have another show Sunday night. We are covering the draft a lot at Draft Professor. So give us a follow, give us a subscribe, and thank you very much for being here. For Newt, Owen, myself, for the 80 people at Draft Professor, thank you so much for watching. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow.